Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the NFT Morning. Today is a very nice and special day because it's a special edition, dedicated to the event Non-Fungible Leaders that will stand on January 21st at La Samaritaine in 2026, of course, dedicated to future of payment. And we're doing special series of podcasts, dedicated to stablecoins and future of payment for corporate. And today, we have two special guests. We have the chance to be with David Bchiri and Odelia Torteman from XRPL Commons, XRPL Ledger. How are you guys? How are you, David?
Doing great. So happy to be with you today. We've been following the NFT Morning for years now, so it's a pleasure and an honor to be featured.
Yeah, I've been following, and we will come back to that. But also, you're partnering with Non-Fungible Leaders, not for the first time actually. You've been with us at the very beginning. We've been part of the early supporter. So really appreciate that for what you've been doing and what you're doing in the ecosystem with XRPL Commons and all the ecosystem. And we have the chance to be also with Odelia Torteman. How are you, Odelia?
Fantastic, great being here with you today, John.
Now, thank you for being with us. Before we start, just maybe, David, maybe Odelia, actually, we start with you. Can you just quickly introduce, basically what is your mission and what you're doing basically at XRPL?
Absolutely. So Odelia Torteman, I lead corporate adoption for XRPL Commons, which David will share a bit more later on what we do and what are our mission. But in essence, we're a Paris-based organization that are working to support the adoption of the XRP ledger across the different personas and entities that are comprising this very unique ecosystem. I'm focusing on the corporate adoption side of things, which basically looks at the work that we do with the more mature players, whether these are the banks, asset managers, crypto natives, or different types of companies that are built on the ledger, to support them from one side on their journey to build, to understand, to discover what the XRP ledger can do with them. And from the other side, also to design new products, new offering, new value proposition, and to enhance the functionalities of the ledger itself. I've been doing this for quite some time now. So I've been focusing on digital finance for 15 years, previously with the World Bank, previously with Deloitte, previously with some others. And I've been very happy to work with David and the team here in Paris for the last year and a half and really bring digital finance to the next level from an institutional grade adoption.
No, it's great. It's great to see profiles, like your one, joining the space actually. And I think, it totally makes sense. Also, I didn't know all your background also, and I realized that, it's totally connected, with what we're doing about, the corporate adoption basically. And so maybe David, because, for people there, maybe they know XRP, but I would like you just to explain the whole story about, how you ended up, with this entity.
So yeah, of course, everyone knows XRP. Everyone has an opinion about XRP, but not everyone knows XRP Ledger. XRP Ledger, it's the blockchain, the layer 1 open source decentralized blockchain that is empowering the XRP and other tokens. So it's one of the oldest blockchain in the history. Not everyone is aware of that. So going back to the first days, some Bitcoin developers figured that Bitcoin had limitations. At the time, I think the block time on Bitcoin was like more than 60 minutes. And so it was not perfect for payments. So they wrapped their heads around this issue and try to figure out what's the best way to remove the friction in payments. How do you make a blockchain solution instant? And they decided that the best way to go forward was pre-mining tokens. So you remove the mining part and you just use the consensus to order the transactions on the ledger. And so this is how they came up with the XRP ledger. And by its design and its consensus, it's called proof of authority. It's not proof of work, not proof of stake. It's extremely versatile, very sturdy, very robust. It's been in use for 13 years now. We just celebrated a few weeks ago the 100 millionth block on XRP Ledger. And the number one token on XRP Ledger is XRP. But so it was designed with the first use case in mind was payments. So it's very, very efficient for everything payment related, micro payments, streaming of payments. You can even send checks on XRPL. So I can send you XRPs, and you can decide when you cash them in. It does not hit your account directly. You can decide when you trigger the movement of tokens from my account to yours. So it has a lot of features that not everyone is aware of. And for the last 13 years, it's been used by a range of companies. And so initially, the initiator of the XRPL ledger were the technical co-founders of a company named Ripple. So it's important that people understand the difference between each entity, each label. So XRP is the token, XRP ledger is the open source blockchain, the layer one that is running the transactions. And Ripple is a for-profit company that is based in the US now, has offices everywhere in the world, that is using XRP ledger to build financial services. Okay, so now
actually, it's really, even for me, actually, it's very important. So Ripple is an expertise company, basically. Basically, it's the most advanced and expert company using the XRP ledger blockchain, to create payment solution for banks, basically.
Exactly, and they are one of the contributors. They are a very influential contributor in the way that they have a big engineering team working full time on XRPL, but they have a number of other teams that are building and developing other services, from custody to wallet provisioning to stablecoins. They have a range of services and offers. And
but it makes sense. It's a typical open source model in a way. So the company who's been also creating the technology is the main contributor to this ecosystem and using it. But at the end of the day, it's an open ecosystem.
So is one of the main contributors, I would say. On the side, there are a number of other companies. I have to mention XRPL Labs, for instance, that's providing the wallet that is used mostly by the XRP community. They're developing Xaman, so it's a wallet that is full featured. So every time there's a new feature coming up on the XRPL, Xaman provides support and UX to use and leverage them. But there are other wallets too, Bifrost, Joey, Gem Wallet, Crossmark, different wallets that are XRPL first. And now what we're seeing is sort of a crossover from other ecosystems. So wallets that are, blockchain agnostic, Zengo, for instance, integrated XRP recently. You see, so these players, they see that there's definitely an opportunity for them and for their community to blend XRP ledger into their mix of blockchain offering. And also, I think there's been a shift in the last couple of years from our community with two major things. The first one is not being an island anymore. So until recently, the XRP ledger was really an ecosystem on its own, and we were not connected to other ecosystems. We had very little interoperability. And about 18 months ago, a new sidechain came up. It's called the EVM sidechain, that is fully EVM compatible and is now live, allows to move value from XRPL to other EVM compatible chains. So that's a very big step for the whole community, because that sort of shifts the paradigm for the XRP community. And the second one is programmability. The XRP ledger is what we call a fixed function ledger. So every time we want a new function on the XRPL, we don't have smart contracts. We have to build it at the protocol level. So multi-signature, for instance, it's a feature that is available for everyone at the protocol level. NFT, it's a new object that came a few years ago, available for the whole ecosystem. DEX, AMM, you name them. So we have about 45 features that are available on the protocol, that you can call just with one line of code. It's just API calls. Okay. Now, if you want to compose these features, there's a first team that has been working on bringing together the different features of the XRPL, so you can compose them and batch the transaction together. And now there's a new feature coming up, which is programmability. So it's a first stage towards smart contracts. It's a huge philosophical change in the community, but I think it's been desired and requested by the community, by builders who needed more advanced feature to compose with existing features to make money first, to be able to have a sustainable business model and be able to combine transactions together. So these two things are, I think, major updates for the whole community and for the whole blockchain ecosystem, to understand that XRPL Ledger is now playing along with other chains and bringing more advanced features for builders. So in that context, giving you the technical context of what XRPL Ledger is, XRPL Commons, which is the entity that I lead, is a not-for-profit that we've incorporated in Paris. So we're based out of France, but we sort of go pretty much everywhere in the world. And we're trying to create favorable conditions for builders, researchers, innovators to leverage the XRPL Ledger in different use cases and different products. So to do that, really at the forefront of research, bridging research with industry, helping entrepreneurs to use the XRPL Ledger. We have an incubator here in Paris. It's a very unique program. We can talk about it later. And we have also a pillar dedicated to educating and helping corporations to leverage XRPL Ledger. But these are different playbooks, if you will. The accelerator is really for entrepreneurs who are working on a product, and we help them accelerate in 3 months their go-to-market. Okay. And the corporate innovator side takes more time, and this is what Odelia will talk about. It is really to identify key stakeholders in large companies, large institutions, public or private, and help them understand the potential of blockchain. Sometimes you have to start really from the
mindset, acculturation, I believe. So yeah, of course, you have different layers of understanding, about innovation topic more generally. Yes. I believe when you're talking with corporate, because it's all about evangelization. I don't know, maybe Odelia, you can tell us a bit more also about just before going through payment about what does it mean to do corporate innovation basically.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned, basically we both do corporate innovation, which is more of looking into different use cases, different aspects, and understanding how the XRP Ledger can work for them. And we also basically take them through this entire journey. So given the fact that the XRP Ledger, as David mentioned, was designed from inception to support financial services with an extremely advanced, I would say, sophisticated architecture that has a lot of pre-built function to support a lot of these aspects, right? It was designed to support from the issuance of token, the monetization of tokens, the transfer of tokens across both private and permission networks, enables financial institutions, especially in today's world, to harness this potential and to come up with new use cases. And I think that really the last year has been pivotal on that aspect, both on the sense that we're seeing the regulation moving much more towards that direction, and both on the sense that we're seeing much more conversion between the work that different types of corporates, financial institutions, even VCs and asset managers, of course, are bringing this new programmable money, this new decentralized finance, DeFi-based product into their everyday operations. And what we do under the adoption pillar is walk them through this exploration journey, from understanding what XRPL is to looking into different use cases. I always say, understanding, where does it hurt for you from a business perspective? What do you want to upgrade? What do you want to automate, digitize? Whether it's existing workflows that are currently too slow, that are currently too cost, or whether it's the desire to tap into new value proposition, new markets, new offerings, we take them through this entire cycle, which starts from the ideation all the way to concept design and to implementation, with the goal of having, like we said, a new value proposition, a new working stream standing. And in today's world, given the huge surge we see, across this, as we've mentioned, new assets that are being tokenized, new payments aspect, also the whole huge surge we're seeing around stablecoins, which I think we will focus on a bit more today, right? Because if we're speaking about payments, stablecoin, I think by hook and by crook are the key leading dominate player that we're seeing in recent days. And the XRP ledger has been extremely strategic for that, both from the, I would say, the internal stablecoin that Ripple have launched, the RLUSD, which serves a lot of the application and solutions across the XRP ledger, but also supporting different types of players and issuing their own stablecoins on the XRP ledger. So this is exactly the work that we do, taking them from the beginning all the way into connecting the pipes and launching these new offerings.
What is according to you, because stablecoin is kind of a keyword, buzzword almost, that everybody is talking about. Even before talking specifically about the XRPL, I wanted to get your views, Odelia, about why at the end of the day it makes sense for corporate, to think and to be interested by stablecoins.
Yeah, I think even if we take a step back, not just for corporates, right? Stablecoins have become the bridge between the traditional financial ecosystem and between the more DeFi, digital finance-based ecosystem. Because in the end of the day, what DeFi enables you to do is to come up with this new programmable money, with new programmable assets, with new ability to tokenize different types of elements, whether these are financial assets, right, like balance sheet and different other stuff, whether these are new types of asset classes. If you can now tokenize them and create them a representation on the ledger, you still need a way of how basically you can then integrate with the existing trade fine, right? With the existing systems, with the existing operation. And in essence, I think that for many, many years, in my opinion, it even started when central banks started dealing with CBDCs, right? With central bank digital currency. And how can you take some of these elements from this programmable money and put them into work within existing rails, within existing processes and flows? This whole idea of how can we take this programmability but use it in a more enterprise-grade, safe, compliant manner, which taps a lot of the risks from the volatility perspective, whilst maintaining the potential and the different value that using and working with programmable assets can bring. So this was basically, I would say, the introduction to stablecoin and why they were brought into our world, right? To really serve as the bridge. Now, if you take now, why do different enterprises, both, from banks like JP Morgan and Societe Generale into other private sector players or different non-financial players that are issuing their own stablecoin, the desires, I would say, in the use cases are quite diverse. But in essence, if you would need one sentence, it would be to tap into this programmability in a way which enables them to, manage these two worlds. So stablecoins, specifically on the XRPL, right, have been used for different types of use cases, both from the sense of, like we said, to use them as a way to manage and to collateralize other tokenized assets, both in a way to streamline payment operation. A lot of the key focuses on stablecoin is mainly around cross-border payments, right? Both from the B2B perspective, from a B2C perspective, from a wholesale perspective, supporting different types of merchants and SMEs to use different types of currencies in their everyday operations and in their everyday work. Everything around foreign market exchange has also been quite a big theme, right? Foreign markets exchange is one of the largest, I would say, sectors in finance in the world today, which has a lot of issues when it comes to scale, when it comes to time, when it comes to how many different intermediaries are required in order to fully execute the payment flow. And these are the areas exactly where stablecoins come into place, because they enable you to streamline exactly those, right? More advanced aspect we're seeing on stablecoins are in the world of, like we said, collateralizing different types of asset, different types of treasury management, trade finance. Obviously, we've mentioned this as well. But coming back to your original question, why do corporates and enterprise want to issue a stablecoin? Well, that's the first question that they need to solve, because even the goal is not just to issue another coin, right? And the goal is not now to have dozens, if not hundreds, of separate stablecoins for different entities, because in the end, those stablecoins too would need to communicate with one another. So before we go ahead and we launch a stablecoin, the work that we do also at XRPL Commons under the adoption pillar is exactly that, is work with the organization to understand why would you need to issue a stablecoin? What are the key issues and the key use cases? What is the operational supportive flow that you would need in order to execute them? And from them, basically, like we said, help them all the way to implement that.
No, that's very interesting. And I believe, when you mention corporate innovation, everything starts with a why. And because I believe, it's a keyword. So yeah, maybe some corporate come to you and they say stablecoins. And, the question is, should I create one? Should I just integrate some strategic one in my cash flow? Why could I use them? What I want? Where do I want to go? And so, yeah, I believe, of course, then, you need to work on this. And sorry, David, yeah, you wanted to go ahead on this topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a couple of stories. 2.5 years ago, when we started Commons, we had amazing conversations with large French corporations. And so you start with the chief innovation officer, and they're really interested in the tech and the everything that Odelia just mentioned, the fact that it's seamless to integrate, it's just API calls, or you can integrate that in your tool stack. It's available 24/7. Every day of the year you can move money. You don't have to wait for the banks to open. It's instant. You know exactly where the money is, where the money flows. But two things came up every time. Before we were mentioning stablecoins. 2.5 years ago, we were talking about moving XRPs and using XRP as a bridge currency. So, moving any currency like euro to XRP and then off-ramping XRP to yen somewhere else in the world. Everyone understood that, but what the minute we were talking to another person in the organization, let's say the CFO, for instance, the first question that came up is, how do I manage my balance in XRP in my balance sheet? Because XRP, like every other crypto, is volatile. And so, do I have to hedge my risk against a crypto that is volatile? Do I have to stock it, to store it, to hold it? Like, a lot of questions came up. And so that was a big deal breaker in the integrations. Like, oh, if I have to rely on a token that is volatile, then, it's hard for a corporation. That was one. And the second thing was regulation. Is this token regulated? Is this token safe? If I hold this token, will I be in trouble later? So that these are already two big questions that would basically be a deal breaker for publicly traded companies to engage with blockchain projects. Then came stablecoins and regulated stablecoins. So when I say regulated, that in Europe we have a framework now, MiCA, that gives all the checks and balances for stablecoins to be issued, to be used. So that gives a lot of clarity for corporations, public and private corporations, to use stablecoins without the hurdle, because in stablecoins there's the word stable, so you remove the volatility. I think that's how the innovation ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem, found its way towards using a technology that everyone perceived the value of, and checking the boxes that corporations needed to check before engaging with a blockchain project. So I think that's a big.
But I think it's very important to remind that, because of course, it could look obvious of people using crypto every day, because basically when you start to work with crypto, you are used to work with stablecoin, because this is basically the position where you are not exposed to risk anymore. So if you want, so you will switch and swap between crypto and come back to stables, or the basic states of your crypto, basically stablecoin. And because at the end of the day, it's the best way. Then in 1 second, if you need to redeploy it anywhere, you can do it. And most of the people will not bring it back to a fiat currency at this stage. They only do it when really they want to get the money out of the system. And I think it's at the end of the day, it's more or less the same for corporate.
Absolutely. And I think the second story I wanted to share is, here we're in France. Okay, in France, in Europe, it's very easy to move money around. Like, if I want to send you 5 euros, I can use any neobank app, or now any traditional wires. Now we have instant wires in all the banks, but it's super recent. It's like a month old, this instant wire.
And it's only within France so far,
only within France, but you can use Revolut or Lydia, and pretty much any European, any country that is using the SEPA system can be you can send money in a few seconds. That works. But here at Commons, we have this residency for innovators, and we're inviting and hosting people from all over the world. Okay, so they come here, they spend 3 months with us. We've had people from India, Pakistan, Mexico, China, like literally from everywhere in the world. The biggest issue that we're facing is to help them with their expense. So we have this contract where they come, we pay like a little stipend for them to be able to live in Paris. That was for us the only way to make like equal chances for everyone. If you come from Nigeria, the cost of living in France is not affordable unless we help you with it. So this is the first time in my life that I experienced sending money abroad on a regular basis, and it is a nightmare. It's literally a nightmare. The money never goes smoothly from your bank account to your counterpart. It moves from a bank. It's called corresponding banks.
Even in the US, it's not so easy now. When you go out of the SEPA system, it's a nightmare. I used to have the same in my previous company. I had to pay 30 people, Chinese winners of my hackathons. It took six months to send them the money. It was
it takes a lot of management. Like you have to be behind. You have to keep up with the Swift messaging. You have to understand who. And I think that's by design. It is to make sure that you're not moving money under the radar. The banks are responsible for who you're sending the money to. I understand why it is like that, but from a user perspective, me as the user moving money around, it is a nightmare. So suddenly with stablecoins, you have an equivalent way to send money anywhere in the world, and using payment rails that are instant, transparent, and come with a messaging system. You know where the money is. So you can still be super compliant because most of the systems that are now connecting to blockchains are operating within a regulated framework. So they have to KYC, they have to comply with AML, anti-money laundering laws. They have to implement a travel rule. So then you have to be able to prove where you send the money, to whom you send the money. So in terms of regulation, we're getting closer to what the traditional banks have, but in terms of operations, we're getting closer to what the crypto ecosystem has. So the stablecoins kind of brings you best of both worlds.
Yeah, of course. And we haven't, even in Europe, actually, sometimes there are some it could look stupid, but stablecoin works 24/7. At the moment, you are using wire transfers. Sometimes, it can be closed during the weekend, and for some reason, I think a lot of I know a lot of CFOs that had to send an order. That had to be done at this time, maybe Friday evening before it stopped, because otherwise they will have penalties or something like this. And so it's whatever you want, it's not connected with office hours of the bank system. So it's also something that, it's in a way very stupid and simple, but it can work anytime.
Yeah. Can I add something on that?
Yeah.
Since we're diving into the world of payments, I've been doing fintech for many years, and as I said, and the world of basically payments and digitizing payments is one of the most, I would say, interesting, appealing, yet challenging to innovate, right? Because it is one of the only areas, I think, in finance in general, but also in general, whereby you must have a network effect in order to truly reach innovation. Because if you don't have everyone on the same network, including the merchants, the consumer, the institutions, then basically nothing really works. And it's always a balance between, if you want to build a new system and if you want to build a new network, from one side, you need to get everyone on board, but then you also need to get the consumers. And it's almost like a chicken and an egg, because the consumers will not move into a network where not everyone are in, and the big players will not move into, a new network where you don't have consumers. But on the other side, the data that you can get from these, payments areas and from this network is huge. So for years, it's been an area where many try to innovate. And I think that where we currently are, strongly supported by stablecoin, is the understanding. And again, we spoke about it in FinTech, I think back in 2014, 13, where we say, what is it going to be? Is it going to be a complete replacement of the existing infrastructure by the innovators, or is it going to be more of a collaboration approach? And I think now it's very clear by now that it has to be a collaborative approach, right? Because we have to use the rails that we currently have, but we absolutely must incorporate these new tools, these new programmable, these new capabilities. And I think that stablecoins, in essence, are truly a great example for that. And in essence, also the XRP ledger as a whole, because for corporation and for different financial institutions, everything that has to do with regulatory compliance is not a choice. It's a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
You have to work with a platform that has all these features pre-embedded and pre-built from day one, right? And the ledger, as we said, since it was designed from 2012 to support this world of basically cross-border, of value transfer, it has a lot of these features pre-integrated inside, A, and B. Now, currently, we have an extremely ambitious institutional DeFi roadmap that takes these features, from Trustline, from the ability to incorporate a lot of these compliance elements on a native manner on-chain and expanding them more and more. So we have, from different types of decentralized identifiers to credentials to permission decks to the ability to control to whom you send, to be able to freeze transactions and accounts that you have any suspicious whatsoever that they might not be completely, kosher, so to speak. These are a lot of the features that the ledger, the XRP ledger, was designed to do, which really position it, I think, as one of the, if not the most, I would say definitely amongst the top layers and the protocols in the world for everything that has to do with different types of institutional-based use cases that are dealing with the transference of money, and specifically payments, of course.
Actually, you mentioned, that it's a 13 years old blockchain, basically. So it's very strong, very in terms of history. And I think also, David, you say that some people love it, some people make fun of it. But, it's also dependent from where these people come from. And I think, from the corporate perspective, actually, it's been almost by design in XRPL DNA, to be designed for banks and corporate, right?
For regulated business in general, because so most of the people who make fun of it, they basically don't understand it, and they get in their info from X, and they only have a couple of people they can get really like true information from. It's interesting to see how. Because it's one of the oldest blockchains, how tribalism has created this sort of teams. Like, are you pro or are you against? But I really don't.
This kind of, some people just make joke and say this is the Uber driver tips for, for trading, basically, or something like this.
Yeah. Well, I like that people have an opinion in general, and because that usually helps engaging in a conversation where you can make a point or try to make a point. But anyway, what people don't know is the XRP ledger had the first DEX built in. It's the first DEX in the history of blockchain, and it is available at the protocol level. So when there's an offer on the protocol, it's available for every exchange. So if you build a UX to access, to give access trading on the XRPL, you can access the entirety of the offers. So the liquidity on the XRP ledger are shared at the protocol level. Unlike exchanges, for instance, on Ethereum likes, where each lending protocol has their access to their own pools. In the XRPL world, the pools are shared. You can access the entirety of the liquidity. It's a huge advantage when you compare between different ecosystems. One thing that came up to my mind when you mentioned it's designed for regulated business is 2-3 years ago during the NFT craze, I was giving a class to a couple of artists. They were releasing NFTs on the XRPL. So they were like, okay, how do you do a airdrop? So I had to explain that on the XRPL ledger, you cannot send anything to anyone. You have to allow someone to send you something before you receive something. There are a lot of anti-spam features on the XRPL. So you have to, for instance, lock one XRP to activate an account. You cannot create 10,000 accounts programmatically if you don't lock one XRP on each account. To activate them, you need one XRP. That prevents a lot of spammers from creating, from trying to manipulate the market and by creating a lot of wallets and moving money around. Because that you have to have skin in the game. You have to pay for your account to be active. And then when you release your account, when you delete your account, you get your reserve back. But it's actually showing that you are in for real usage. And then the concept of trust line is this idea of, if John wants to send David something, David has to allow John to send. What token do I allow you to send to me, and in what amounts? What's the maximum amount that I allow you to send me? Which basically, for a lot of creators, was made no sense. Like, why? I want to airdrop. I want to send as many tokens as I want to as many people as I want. Yes, but they first have to allow you to do so. And these, when you take that paradigm to regulated markets, it makes a lot of sense. Some actors don't want to be holding tokens that are toxic, that are stained. You don't want to be interacting with wallets that are that might be in troubles because they've done any kind of shenanigans on the blockchain. So you realize
you're totally right. Even at my very, I think at the very B2C level, even like as a consumer, even now, I would say 15 years later, you have a lot of tools showing you your portfolio, because of course nobody is reading on the blockchain. So you always have a filter that is showing you, and whatever you use, you use, I don't know, the CoinMarketCap API, or you use any other API, they always will show you that your portfolio someday is, maybe 10 times bigger because someone just dropped you a scammy token. And, it's, so, you can think that at the corporate level, if you want to start to use these kind of things and, to have something very consistent, maybe, it could be an issue, first in terms of trust, but even in terms of figures and what you want to follow, right?
Absolutely. And that's the idea of XRPL Ledger being used for a real world use case. In the real world, you don't send value to someone you don't know. You don't interact. You don't transact with people you don't know just out of, I wanted to brute force something and send 1 million tokens to 1 million people. It does not really exist in the real world. So I think the XRPL Ledger was built with that in mind. Like, how do we match the real world usage?
I see. And so I think that's very interesting. Also, I think, just something, but I heard some figures also just about just from the in terms of presence of XRPL within corporate banks and institutions. The figures, I think, are pretty impressive, if I'm not wrong.
Well, there are some regions where XRP is one of the top tokens in terms of corporate usage. So Japan, for instance, has shown a lot of engagement from the early days of XRP, and for systemic reasons. Japan, Korea, South Korea have been using XRP and XRPL Ledger on a wide range of use cases. But I think in the mindset, having a local currency that is somehow like cut off from the rest of the world gives an incentive for people locally to trade at a very young age. So in Korea, for instance, we had an entrepreneur here who was from Korea, and he was telling us, like, with their first paycheck in South Korea, people will buy XRP. And that's one thing to do to edge their savings on the risk of holding only one currency. They will also buy ETH or Bitcoin, but for several years in Korea, the only allowed tokens were BTC, ETH, and XRP. These were the allowed by regulation, the allowed tokens to hold.
I see. Okay,
so,
that's very important. And okay, we can see the size, the impact, and especially also in the corporate world. Just to come back to XRPL Commons and also, the way you work with corporate, maybe Odelia, you just wanted to understand the profiles of corporate, I mean, because I believe maybe there are different levels of maturity. Do you need to already have a project in mind? Or what is it, how does it work basically for, which kind of profiles and how they're getting in touch with you? What is the typical, I would say, workflow of a company who start to interact with you, Odelia?
Yeah, thanks for the question, John. So there isn't, I would say, one fits all, right? We're not looking for a specific profile. It can either be a company that already has, a strategy in mind and a specific use case that they want to obtain, and they want to explore whether the XRP ledger is the relevant protocol to use. Or it can be a company that basically is just starting its journey, right? Wanting to learn what is this creature, or, you'd be surprised. Just this Friday, we had a meeting, David and I, with the big company, that despite their size and scale, they're still at the early stage of looking into this world because of all the elements we've spoke about, right? Because of the compliance, because of the AML, because whilst from one side we do have more regulation adoption, still this is considered an asset, and still this is the beginning of the journey. So from a corporate perspective, it could be those different ways. On the other side, I would say we're also working with partners which are not necessarily corporates, right? The partnership framework that we lead under the adoption pillar is looking for both technology players that have interesting solutions that might be complementary to the ledger, as I mentioned, from a pure tech functionality perspective, right? For example, incorporating different types of elements in the either upcoming amendments or the existing functionalities that we have, and also looking into new solutions. We're now working with a few players to offer yields on XRP for both retail holders and for institutional players. And of course, I think one of the biggest assets that the XRP ledger has, besides, as we've mentioned, the pre-built architecture, is the liquidity that it brings from an XRP perspective. As XRP is the bridge currency to support a lot of the functionalities, as it became such a huge asset to hold, right, with what we call the XRP to the moon army, it became quite a very appealing asset that many players have, right, both from a retail holder perspective, but also from an institutional perspective. And as the world of DeFi increases now, one of the key areas that everybody are looking at is how can we tap into those liquidity and put it into work. So the whole world of how can one generate yields on the XRP is something that we've been working quite strongly on with different types of players, right? Both with the exchanges that are connected to their customers that hold these XRP, both with different players that would like to offer that to their clients. And now, even more so with an upcoming amendment that we have, which offers native XRP lending from a protocol perspective. So the goal is to offer this from a protocol to basically having a single vault architecture approach that enables different types of players, like we said, to basically, I wouldn't say stake because it's a bit different than the XRP ledger, but the ability to create a liquidity pool of XRP that enables you to generate yields. And these are interesting models that we're looking at. Again, all this to answer your question, which type of partners are we looking for? So also these type of partners that are sitting in the two edges of this funnel, right? So the borrowers, the lenders, different types of vault providers, different types of other players that can offer these aspects. These are a different aspect that we're looking for as well. We do a lot of work now also with different types of credit cards, with issuers, right? That would like also to offer direct settlements on the XRP ledger, either using the RLUSD or using another type of stablecoin, right? Some that are working and operating under different regulatory framework. But in essence, really looking into how can we tap, in essence, I think payments, stablecoins, and this world are another door towards the extended world of DeFi, towards the extended world of what you can do with tokenized assets and with different types of things on your balance sheet. And, this is exactly the kind of partners that we're looking for. So partners that are either looking to work on the XRPL, that are looking to add their pillars to new value chains, or that want to understand what can we do with it? These are the different partnerships and players that we accompany, like we said, from the exploration all the way to the implementation.
Okay, got it. And so, yeah, it can be very, very different. So from very traditional institutions working in finance, but also in any other kind of institutions that want to start to do something with the blockchain, but also, so from what I understand, of course, teams with a good blockchain knowledge that can potentially use some of the bricks that you mentioned, basically, like DEX or whatever, to create services, using these bricks and providing maybe the new, I don't know, just say some random stuff, new services like new hyper liquids on the XRPL or stuff like that, for example.
Exactly. Or even players that are integrated, wallets that are working with other chains and would like to tap into what the XRPL can bring. Now, as David mentioned, with the EVM sidechain, we're tapping into a lot of the programmability from the Ethereum world, which brings a lot more flexibility and creativity. So Web 2 builders, Web 3 builders on other protocols, the ones to, join the family of the XRP ledger. These are also the kind of partners and players that we work with.
No, and this mission makes sense, of course, because as you mentioned, David, it's in a way, the blockchain is very convenient because you have natively a lot of components, that can be used. But of course, now the idea also is to, have more ecosystem people, who will create services on top of it, with the new features, that kind of smart contract-like way to develop products.
And that's a sign of maturity. We see the different, like the range of players we work with. For us is really a sign of adoption at scale. 2-3 years ago, we were only talking to the super innovative, the protocol players, the small startups that would just want to launch a product. Today, I think it's an ecosystem approach. We're not the only one doing that. Every crypto foundation has been working hard on building use cases that would make sense of using blockchain in general. So kudos to everyone that has been moving the needle for the blockchain ecosystem as a whole. But I think in the XRPL world, where we really make a dent is on regulated business, regulated institutions, where suddenly they realize that there's one blockchain, one protocol that had, by design, integrated all these features from day one, because that was always the vision from the founders of the XRPL. That was always the vision.
No, that's really nice. And to look back just on the XRPL Commons also, and because you have this beautiful also area in Paris, in the very center of Paris, where you're doing your incubations and also hosting incubation acceleration programs. You could also, so you mentioned initially, you have like different kind of programs, like 3 months programs, and so startups can apply basically. Or what is the process basically?
Yeah, well, we're based in Paris, Rue Beaubourg, and we wanted from day one to be in Paris, to be at the center of Paris, to at the same time attract talents, making sure that we, when I started Commons, I didn't have the team I have now. We have a team of 20 super talented people, and the whole idea of being in the center was we want to make something that would let everyone join. That was one thing. And we designed this place as really a collider, a place where people will move around freely and then at some point collide. And when they collide, that creates energy. So we have a number of programs. The Aquarium, this is our residency. This is the program that invites people to work for 3 months on a project, being hyper-focused on their project. And my initial statement was, we want to be able to tackle hard issues, not just anything, like really the issues that people are facing. And we're conscious that we don't know everything everywhere. We don't know what people are facing in Nigeria, for instance. So we've had this massive applications from Nigeria, because there's a systemic issue with the financial system there. It's impossible to move money out of the country. It's really hard to move money out of the country. We've had applications from Greece because the financial system in Greece has collapsed several years ago. And same happened in Argentina. We have a lot of people from Latin America who apply to the program, mostly because they're facing issues with either a local currency that has devaluated a lot, or financial rails that are not working, or even missing, or things that prevent them from moving forward. So they come here with the specific issue that they're facing. We had no idea about that before. So we meet amazing entrepreneurs that are trying to solve really hard use case, and we create the conditions around them to succeed. It means finding the best mentors, finding the best experts, getting them the knowledge they need on blockchain, because sometimes they come with very little knowledge about tokenomics, for instance, or regulation. So we try to patch the holes, patch the gaps. And after 3 months, they leave and they became ambassadors of the XRPLs. They have a product that works on the XRPL. And so for us, that's a way to disseminate and cross-pollinate projects between one another. And here, not only we do incubation, but we also have several startups that are working from our offices. We do training. We do a lot of trainings. We train developers. We train entrepreneurs. We have free trainings every 3 months. We host a 2-day very intense training for developers. So anyone in the blockchain community who want to learn about how to build with the XRPL ledger is welcome for a training. It is not a training to become a developer. You have to come with strong knowledge in development, but it's to bring you further understanding blockchain and XRPL. And we also host a lot of events. So on a monthly basis, we do 5 to 10 events here. Some are public, some are invitation only, but we try to be a hub and a resource for the blockchain ecosystem in Paris.
Totally makes sense. Okay, actually, I see that time is running. I had 1,000 questions to ask you, but actually, I will invite people who wants to know more, if they can, to be part of actually the Non-Fungible Leaders event that will run on January 21st. So it's going to be in 6-7 weeks from now, at the moment we are recording this episode. And actually, I think it's going to be interesting because, we have all these profiles of corporate that will join from basically most of the top, at least French companies, and that are different levels of maturity, and that will be interested, to see what they can do, what they can do with these solutions. I really wanted also, to thank you, David and Odelia, to be a partner of the event, because I've been mentioning this initially. I think we started this event. It's really like it's a global mission. I would say to educate and evangelize. I liked what you told me. I think maybe when we organized the first event, David, you say you compared a bit what we're doing with when the railway appeared, in the 19th century. And that, we know that it's the future, we know the potential, we know that it's going to be a game changer for everybody, and that there is no return point. But we know that it's basically something that will happen all along the century. And it's like what we're working on is like building an infrastructure. And we can see for railway, there are even now a lot of cities that still needs to be connected, and still evolutions happening on it. And it's still something, that is on the infrastructure level, and then on the use case level, and it's even more complex. So we need to talk, we need to explain, we need to educate, and it was the initial idea. So it was great to have you, for the first edition, and to have you back for this one. And maybe, because, there are just one last thing, that you wanted to mention, Odelia, that seems important for you, before we leave.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you, John. It's been a pleasure. And we are very excited to support you on the journey and on the vision, really, to support the adoption of blockchain and of XRPL in general. And we really invite, people that are both listening here and people that are planning to attend the conference on January to really, get in touch. To your question, how can they speak with us? Either you can go to xrplcommons.org or really look for David or myself on LinkedIn. We're very open to learning more about new innovation, new solutions, new models, new partners, and are very excited about meeting you and see how we can work together. So we're really excited about that, and really excited also about the plan we have for the conference itself. We will do a workshop focusing on stablecoins and some of the more operational side to really try and walk different types of enterprises through this journey. So excited to meet you all in person.
Thank you, Odelia. And David, do you want to share one last word?
Well, you and I, we go back a long way. We've been in the trenches of corporation innovation for now 15 years, 20 years, and I think that's gray hair and everything now. But we know that it takes a long time, so it's good that people know we're in it for the long run. And super happy to support you and Jen, who's been doing an amazing work in the French ecosystem for many years now. We're happy to support you this year, and we're happy to support you in the next coming editions. Being a partner means showing up whenever you guys are putting something amazing like the NFL conference. So we'll see each other in person in January, and I'm looking forward to it. I think you muted yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. And so, you will have all the links, to join XRPLcommons.org and, Odelia's and David profile. So everybody have a great week. See you very soon. We'll have more episodes to come, related to the topic of stablecoins and future of payments. And so stay connected. And for everybody who will be in Paris on 21st of January, see you there. Have a great day and good morning. Happy